Okay, so building custom jQuery UI widget. So here we are going to learn the concept of widget and widget factory as well. And we are going to see how we can extend existing widgets. And then we are going to see how we can create a new widget from scratch. What is and why widget factory? So before we talk about the widget factory, let's talk about the widget versus plugins. So we have learned the concept of plugins, jQuery plugins, and we also learned how we can create plugins. Now, most plugins are, so now the differences between widgets and plugins, okay? So most plugins, most jQuery plugins are stateless. So basically they perform some action and then their job is done. Okay, so for example, if you have a plugin that lets you display some text using this text method, okay, basically when you call the method text with the hello, there is no setup phase and result is always the same. Okay, so in simple cases the plugin should work fine. And in this case, in this type of plugins, it makes sense to just extend jQuery's prototype like fn. So that's something we have learned yesterday. Now, some plugins require a bit more sophistication. For example, it might have to maintain state, and it might want to associate some data, and it might in fact have some life cycle, and it might want to react some changes. So these sophisticated features are not typically in the regular plugins. Okay? Now, these type of plugins are typically for UI based, you find in UI based plugins. Okay? So the plugins that support these kind of features are called the widgets. So you can think of widget as superpower plugin. Okay, so widgets are plugins too, as I said. So consider widgets as a special and powerful plugins to support these extra features: maintaining state, associate some data, and have lifecycle and react to changes. So sometimes a regular plugin is sufficient, and other times a widget is more appropriate for your application. Again, typically when you're dealing with the UI, most of the UI widgets are in the form of UI plugins are in the form of widgets. Okay, so when you're creating this widget supporting these extra features, basically you need to write a lot of boilerplate code, right? So instead of writing this boilerplate code over and over, what jQuery community has done is they came up with this widget factory. Okay, so this widget factory is a convenience utility that you can use to support these features. Okay? So widget factory simplifies common boilerplate task of creating a widget, such as creating namespace, merge user options with the default ones, and event wiring and pseudo selector and inheritance. So we're gonna actually take a look at some of these features being added to the simple widget step by step. Okay? So all jQuery UI widgets are in fact built from this widget factory. Okay, so let's talk about how we can use widgets first. So we have already seen how to use this widget in previous presentation. Okay, so now in order to track the state of a widget, first we have to introduce the full life cycle of a widget, and that life cycle starts when the widget is initialized. And to initialize a widget, we basically call the widget one or more elements on one or more element. Basically, what you have to do is you perform this selector operation, and then you're going to call the widget. Okay, and that's basically starting the life cycle. So when you're using, so this is typically what you're going to see in any the usage of the widget. You are going to call the widget first to start the life cycle. And you can also set options to a widget. So you can pass set of options during initialization to override the defaults. In this case, for progress bar, we are setting the options. Okay? If the default value is 10, then that default value will be overwritten with these new options from the user. Okay? You can pass multiple options argument, and these arguments will be merged into one, and this is actually useful when you are sharing these options between instances. Okay? So here we have one option, options model true and show slow. Okay, so we are calling these options to set the options, and then this is another example where we are using these options, and also we are the overriding that option as well. Okay, so you might sometimes capture some of the frequently used the options in this format, and then you can also actually pass it as well. Okay, calling methods of a widget. So all actions after initialization take the form of a method call. Okay? Now this is actually an interesting thing. To call a method on a widget, you pass the name of the method to the jQuery plugin. So progress bar widget has a value method. Okay? Now in order to call that value method, you are passing the name of the method as an argument. So this is a little bit kind of strange, but that's the way it works. Okay? So when you call this widget, value as an argument, that means you are calling value method of progress bar widget. Okay? So remember this. Now, if the method accepts parameters, because value could be a method that could take the parameters or arguments, then we can pass them after the method name. So in this case, we are calling value method, and then we are passing 40 as an argument to that method. Okay, so in that case, value method is actually playing the role of the setter method, as you will see in this particular widget progress bar. Okay. Now, just like other methods in the way that jQuery works, most widget methods return jQuery object for chaining. So in this case, we are calling value method passing 90 as an argument, and that will return jQuery object, so we can chain another method. And here we are calling add class method. Okay, all right. Okay, yes. So question from A. So the accordion and droppable, draggable are widgets actually? Yeah, that is correct. Okay, you can also get events. So all widgets have events associated with their various behaviors to notify you when the state is changing. So there are two different ways that you can associate an event handler. The scheme number one, you can call bind method. So this is an example we have seen before as well. Right? So use the bind method, and then you provide the complete name of your widgets. In this case, the complete name is going to be progress change. Okay, and then a complete name of the handler, and then this function call is gonna be called. So when the change event happens, yeah, I shouldn't say complete name. It's basically the name of the widget and then the change type. Basically, when change event occurs on this progress bar widget, this function handler will be invoked. Okay, so this is one way that you are attaching an event handler to an event type for that particular widget. Okay, or you can use change method. So here you are going to set the change, and then basically you provide the function handler for that as an event handler. So either scheme is fine. Okay. Okay, accessing widget instance. So widget instance is stored using jQuery data with a widget's full name as a key. So suppose if you want to get the widget instance associated with this particular the DOM element, okay, then you're going to call .data, and then you provide the full name of the widget, and then what gets back is in fact the widget object. Okay, so once you got the widget object, then you can actually call a method like this. So we know that value is a method of that widget, right? So once we got the widget object, then we can call like this. So the way that we learned how to invoke a method of the widget is basically this format, right? You basically perform jQuery operation, select operation, and then we got the name of the widget, and then we provide the name of the method and then set of arguments, right? Okay, so this is in fact the same thing as this and this. So combination of these two is the same thing as this. Okay, so once you got the widget object associated with this DOM element, and that, when you call .data method, basically that's how you are going to get that widget instance, and then you can call the value method. Okay, typically we are going to use this format, okay, but this is perfectly okay as well. These two lines of code is the same thing as this. Okay, as I said, in order to get that widget instance, you are going to call the .data method, right? But whether an element has a given widget instance or not can be determined by data selector. So basically what you can say is the select operation and then is, and then if you specify this, that means whether this element in fact has this widget instance attached to it or not. Okay, so in our case this should be true, and this is probably returns false because we have not associated any draggable widget instance to it yet. Okay, you can also actually use :data to get the list of all elements that are instances of a given widget as well. Okay. All right, so by now you might be a little bit confused, right? Okay, so let's do exercise 1. Okay, so let's actually do exercise 1. So here we are going to actually see how we can use the widgets first, okay? And we are going to actually use the progress bar widget as an example. Okay, and later on we are going to actually build this progress bar from scratch, and also we are going to extend this progress bar. So this is something we are very familiar with, so this is a good widget that we can actually play around. So let's take a look at the API first. If you click this API of the progress bar, you are going to see it has options, it has methods. See, the value is one of the methods, right? Okay, and destroy, disable, enable, these are all methods, and these are chain event types that progress bar support. Okay, so just actually recognize that it has those options, methods, and events. Okay, and in 1.1 now we are going to use progress bar. So we are going to actually use the existing the progress bar widget. So this is just learning how to use those widgets, right? Okay, so this is the widget. Use is this the okay, so that's the number 1. So widget we use O1 initialized. So let's actually see. So let's open it. Okay, so this is what actually gets displayed. All right, so nothing really fancy. Okay. All right, so if you take a look at the code, right, basically we have div element whose ID is progress bar. So we performed the select operation and then we just initialize it. Okay, so that's pretty much what it does. We just initialize the progress bar widget. That's all. Okay. All right, so that's what you are going to see like this. All right, so now we are going to inspect this widget instance associated in this this DOM element. So as I said before, you should be able to actually call data method, and then you provide the name of the full name of your widget. So let's actually try this. So press F12, display developer tool, and we are going to actually try the console, and I want you to actually copy this line, or you can type it, and let's actually see what it actually displays. Okay, so it returns an object. Okay, so now let's take a look at the methods. Let's take a look at the proto. So if you go to proto here, okay, you can see, let's see, am I in the right place? Oh, so I'm actually looking, I'm supposed to look at this guy, okay? So, you know, it does have a lot of methods, right? And the value method is supposed to be one of the methods that we should be able to see here. Oh, that's not it. Oh, am I? Let's try again. So this returns a widget instance, okay? And that should have options. Okay, so these are the options, and then we should have, oh, so you should have a value method right here. Bind element focus all value div window. Oh, that we have to actually, oh, so this is the one that I have to expand. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is the value method. Okay, so just the checking widget instance. Okay, all right, now we are going to set option. So basically I am when I'm initializing the widget, I like to set value option to 20. Okay, so open unit set options HTML20. So now we're actually setting 20. So when I click this guy, now we should actually set the value is set to 20. So you can see because the value is 20, it's actually displaying this much. Okay, all right, and the code is again pretty much the same. And if you set the value 30, and I'm sure it will display 30. Okay, all right. Okay, and then we are going to call method. So this is initialization, and then we should be able to call value method, right? So we are going to, so when you are passing, in this case, if you take a look at the actual source code of the progress bar, you can see value method is actually if it is taking if you take an argument, it's functioning as a setter method. Okay, if it doesn't take it, then it will function as a getter method. So now, since we pass 40, we are basically asking this value method to take this 40 and then set the value 40. Okay, so here we are going to display the value, and that should actually display 40. And this one you should be able to change. So in this case, I'm setting the value to 70, and then I'm actually reading it. Okay, so when we are, so that is this is 03. So 03, oh, here we go. And if I view this one, and you can see it is set to 70 here. Now if you see the developer tools, and you should see 20, which is initial value, and then 40, and then 70. Okay, so it's just to show you how you can call this value method. Okay, all right, so that's what you are going to see. Yeah, add another line in which you set the value of the progress bar to 50, and then gets it in chain call. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few minutes to try 1.3. So I just want you to add another line. Basically, in this case, you know, I want to just another line. You can just copy this guy and then set the value to 55. Okay, and see what happens. I'll give you 2 minutes to do that. Okay, so next one is event scheme. So here we are going to use a bind, and the next exercise we are going to use the change method. So here again the name of the widget and event type, and then you bind, and this is the function call. So basically all we do is just the send the alert message. Okay, so when you do that, this is what you are going to see. Okay, For your next exercise, so we can actually just move forward. I'll let you do this exercise on your own later on. Whenever a change is made, add 10 to the value as long as value is total is less than or equal to 100. The next one is instead of using bind method, we are going to have a change. So we're going to actually pass an object where we have a change property, and then we provide the event handler. And it works exactly the same. Okay, and now 1.6 is, as I said, in order to access the widget instance, you're going to use a data method, and then you provide a name of the widget. So remember, the data is in fact the jQuery method where you can associate some data into DOM element, right? So we are exactly using that one in UI widget. Okay. Basically, in order to get the widget instance, we are going to just pass the name of the widget, and what you get back is a widget object, and then we can actually call value method. In fact, we can call any method the progress bar has. Okay, so it will return 30. Okay. Let's see. Set max option to progress bar and add an event handler to complete. So if you can actually do this, right? It might be a little bit more complex task than previous for your exercise. So if you take a look at the max option of the progress bar, and then so basically when you initialize it, you want to actually set the max. So max option, instead of 100 as a default, you want to set the max option to maybe 80 or something like that. And add an event handler for complete event to the progress bar. Okay, so we have actually added event handler for change, right? We could actually add event handler for complete. Okay, so complete event is when it is actually done 100%, then that event handler will be invoked. Okay, so I'll give you 5 minutes to do this exercise. Okay. So we just learned how to use a widget. Now let's see how we can. Okay, so a bit of review. So method invocation a bit. It's a little bit of review on what we just learned. Okay. So widgets created with widget factory use method to change their state and perform actions after initialization. So as we talked about, there are two different ways you can invoke widget method: by invoking a method on the plugin and invoking a method on the widget instance. So basically this is scheme number 1, basically passing the name of the method. Okay. So in this case, I'm calling a close method of the dialog widget, and here I'm calling option method, passing height as an argument. Okay. Scheme number 2 is basically you get the widget object instance by using data method, passing the name of the widget, and then you should be able to, then once you get the widget object instance, then you can call. So in this case, we are calling close method. Okay. All right. So as I said before, under the hood, a widget instance is stored using jQuery data with the widget's full name as a key. So in order to retrieve the widget instance, you are going to just call data, just passing the widget's full name as a key. Okay. So once you get the reference of widget object instance, that you can call methods to it. Okay, so return type. Most methods invoked through the widget plugin will return jQuery objects, so you should be able to chain other methods. In this case, we call close method, and then we should be able to call another jQuery method, in this case CSS method. Now there is an exception. So the method, if the methods are information about the exception to these are methods that return information about the widget. So in this case, is open is basically it's not returning jQuery object. So in that case, when you're trying to call CSS jQuery method, you will experience type error. Okay, so moving forward, now we are going to learn how we can create our own widget by extending existing widget. Okay, later on we are going to see how we can create a widget from scratch. Okay, so usually it's actually better to extend the existing one, right? Okay. All right, so let's see how we can create a new widget by extending existing widget. So you can explicitly inherit from existing widget or third-party widget. So in order to do that, basically you are going to provide the name of your widget. So I'm gonna call it Super Dialog, and the custom is a namespace. Okay, so the name of the widget is basically Super Dialog. Okay, and then you provide the widget that you want to extend. In this case, I am extending existing dialog widget. So this is the existing dialog widget, and then basically you provide whatever extension that you want to include here. So for Super Dialog, I want to have red method, and red method. When red method is invoked, basically it just change the color to red on that element. Okay, so this is a creation of the new widget extending existing UI dialog widget, and then this is the way you are going to use it. First of all, here we are going to actually create this element, and then we have to initialize first. Okay, so you always have to initialize first. Okay, so we are going to call Super Dialog for initialization, starting a life cycle. Then we can invoke a red method. Okay, all right, and then you can see this div element will be changed to red after this. Okay, so that is adding a new method. Now let's see how you can override existing method. So that is in fact the open existing method and UI dialog widget, right? So if I want to override it, basically you're gonna just rewrite that method. So I'm overriding open method, and I provide my own functionality here. And basically what I do is that I'm gonna just display open in the console, and then I'm invoking parent widgets open. So basically I am calling the dialog, UI dialog, existing widgets, the open method. Okay, so the only thing that I have added is just displaying this open text on the console. Okay, and then I create a new div element and convert it into Super Dialog. So once I got this guy, okay, so the open is basically this will be actually opening this method automatically. Okay, so now instead of actually coming up with a brand new name, what you can do as well is from jQuery UI 1.9, you can just override the method of existing the widget. So instead of actually having to use a different name for your widget, I like to just use the same name. So in this case, I'm just using UI dialog and extending UI dialog, overriding this open method. Okay, so in this case, I can just use the dialog widget directly. Here I'm actually using Super. Here I'm using Super Dialog because I'm using a different name. Okay. All right. So that is exercise 2. So let's take a look at exercise 2. Okay, so here again we are going to work with the dialog. So if you take a look at the dialog widget, you can see it has a bunch of options, and we have methods, and we have open method and close method and destroy method and things like that. Okay, and then we have a bunch of events. Okay, so we're going to just play around with the open method. Okay, so here we are going to create, so this is exactly the same code. Okay, we create our own Super Dialog, and then we are going to have this element to be added to the body. Okay, then we initialize the widget, and then we are going to call the red method. Okay, so when you view the page, so this is this is the widget extend o1 add o1. Yeah, this is the one. So if I run it, you can see this is red. Okay, so for your own exercise, add green method and change, which changes the color to green to the widget, and then add div element, which I'm green element, and change the color to green using green method of the new widget. Okay. Alright, so 2.2, we are going to override existing methods. So this is red is a brand new method I'm adding, and override, the open method is already present and I'm just overriding. Okay, so only thing I do is basically adding this alert message. Okay, so when you run it, and this is what you're going to see, and everything else is going to work the same. Okay, the same. And also, instead of actually using your own name, you could use the existing name. Okay, so this is probably a bit more convenient. Okay, so I'm just overriding existing open method of existing dialog widget, and here I'm actually using that dialog widget. Okay, and again, it should work exactly the same. Okay, all right, so I am going to so I'll let you do this exercise for your own exercise, and then try this too, and I'll give you 5 minutes for that. Okay, so we just learned how to extend the existing widget. Now we are going to create the brand new widget step by step, so it's a bit more involved. So in order to create a widget from scratch, okay, you are going to call widget method of jQuery object with 2 parameters: the name of the plugin, meaning widget to create, okay, and then object literal containing functions to support the plugin. So here we are going to create a widget. Okay, the name of the widget is going to be progress bar. So we're going to actually create our own custom progress bar. Okay, and the first and then you pass Java object in which you provide create underscore create the property with a function. So in this case, we are going to get the options value. So this options value, and then the progress is in fact the representing this value plus the percent sign. And then we are going to add class of progress bar, and then we are basically displaying it. Okay, so that is basically what the creation of this progress bar, the widget, is all about. Okay. Now, default options. So you can also add default options with the options property. So in this case, we are going to have a value as option Java object. So we are using Java object specifying this options property, and it has a single key value pair, which is a value, and value is a key, and the value of this value key is 0. Okay, so you can add default options. Okay, all right, so because we have a default options, when you call this dot options value, it's going to take a 0 with this. Okay. Okay, so and then we are going to create a method. Okay, so all the widgets have a set of methods, right? So value is one of those methods, like a red. So in this case, red is one of the method. Okay, and value is, in this case, we are adding a value method, and the functionality of this value method is that when value is not passed, meaning it is undefined. Okay, meaning a user does not pass that value argument, then we are basically returning the value. So it is playing the role of the getter method. Okay, if value is not set. If the value is set, meaning the user has passed the argument, the value argument, then we are going to use it as a setter. So in this case, we are going to get the value by using underscore constraint. So these are all the method you can use when you're creating a widget. So we get the we actually set the options value with it, and then we create the text value. Okay, we create a text string, and then we are just displaying it. Okay, so this is how we can add public method, in this case value method. Okay, and then we can actually provide some event handler. So one of the methods that are automatically available to our plugin is option method. So option method allows you to get and set options after initialization. When used as a setter, the plugin set option method will be called for each option that is being set. So this set option is basically event handler whenever option is set, and then we can specify set option method in our plugin to react to those option changes. And for actions to perform independent of number of options change, we can override these set options as well. Alright, so let's see how we can do this. So we have the set option method. This is set option method, and this is set options method. So this is the singular change, and this is the multiple option changes. And then so let's take a look at the single change. When we get the key value pair, if the key is the same as value, then we are going to call this private method to make sure value does not beyond 100 and beyond it's not smaller than 0 and it's not greater than 100. So we are basically just call this constraint method to make sure value is always between 0 and 100, and then we are going to call the parent object. The parent object is basically the super widget, the parent object, and we set the key value, and this is the having multiple options. Okay, and you can also add other callbacks as well. So one of the easiest ways to make your plugin extensible is to add callbacks so that users can react when the state of your plugin changes. So that is actually for trigger method. So the trigger method takes 3 parameters: a name of the callback, in this case complete, and the jQuery event object that initiate the callback, and then hash of the data relevant to the event. So in this case, we have a refresh method, and it is a function. So we create the progress string value, and then we are displaying it. And if the option value is 100, meaning once we have reached 100, and then we are going to just invoke the complete event handler. And you can also actually do cleanup. So cleanup is destroy method. By the way, all these methods with underscore, those are available from the widget, that's a built-in widget parent widget object. So that is for cleanup. In some cases, it will make sense to allow users to apply and then later on unapply your plugin. So you can accomplish this with the underscore destroy method. So basically, under destroy method, you can actually do whatever cleanup you want to do. So underscore destroy method is called the destroy method. So typical widget have a destroy method, right? And this destroy method is going to call this underscore destroy method, which is automatically called if the element that you plug in instance is tied to remove from the DOM. So this will be used for garbage collection as well. Alright, so let's take a look at the exercise 3. I assume some of you are pretty confused on all these things, so let's take a look at the hands-on lab and you will probably have a better understanding. Okay, so here we are creating widget from scratch. So let's try to create the progress bar 2. And here we have to provide underscore create method, and that is used for creating that widget. And then we are just using it. So let's actually run this guy, create O1 creation, create O1, yeah, so this is the one, and let's do this. And basically it does display just 30% string. Okay, all right. Okay, so when you actually initialize, basically this create method, underscore create method, is actually being invoked. That's what happens. Okay, so in this case we just the create a string, and since we actually passed the option 30, and then we basically get this guy valued, and then we just display it. Okay, so that's what you do. Now we are adding options. So in this case, so we are gonna actually try create O2. Okay, so we have an options 10, and in that case, when the user does not pass any options value, okay, and this will actually use this option value 10. Okay, so when you run this guy, we should see just 10%. Right now, if you actually provide options value, so in this case, let's say I'm going to just copy the value 30. Okay, and if we passed value 30, then it will override the default values. So that's it should be 30%. Okay. Okay, so that is create. All right, and then we just add default options. And then we are going to add some methods. So we know that progress bar has value method, right? So we want to actually add value method. So basically you're gonna, by the way, this is a private method. So the underscore create, this is actually being invoked privately within the widget scheme, so to speak. And this is the method that will be invoked publicly by the user. Okay, so this public method does not start with the underscore. Okay, so we are creating value public method, and so the function is, again, this is the same code that we have. So if value was provided, okay, if value is provided, then we are going to actually use it as the setter method. Otherwise, we are going to use it as the getter method. Okay, all right. And when we are setting it, we call constraint with a value. So basically what all we do is we just want to make sure value is always the 0 and 100. Okay, and then we are just using this progress to the widget. Okay, so initially we set to 30, and then we get the value that should actually display 30. Then we update the value to 50, and then when we get the current value, that should actually display 50. Okay, so this is the create O3, and oh, you know what? Oh, okay, so that's good. Yeah. So it should display some value, 50%, and then if you see the console, then you can see it's 30 and 50. So we basically added the value method. Okay, all right, so this is what we have done. So for your own exercise, I want you to add the value to method, which returns current value minus 10. Okay, and the 0 if the result is less than 0 when it's used as a getter method. So basically, value 2 is displaying the value minus 10. Okay, either you can actually do add value to method, or you could actually add a red method. Okay, so remember that red method that we are to play around in exercise 1. So feel free to use red method as a new method that you want to add. Okay, so I'll give you guys about the 5 minutes to do this exercise. Okay, so let's move on. So let's move on to 3, 4, and so react to option changes. So here we are adding set options and set option and set options. So these two are actually invoked automatically whenever options are changed. Okay, So yeah, in this case, we are basically providing value 190, and those options will be invoked. Okay. All right. Now, yeah, so you can see when we are setting 190, which is a beyond 100, but you can see this is still setting with 100 because we are actually calling this constraint. This set option event handler is actually being invoked when option is being changed. Okay. Let's see. So in this case, you can certainly actually try the constraint method. Instead of 100, you are maybe setting to 80. Okay, so let's see whether that is going to work, and then we'll move on. Create all four React options. Create all four. So when you do this, we are still seeing 100%. So I'm going to change this guy. When it is greater than 100, I'm going to actually set to 88 or something like that. Save the change, and then refresh the page. You can see it's changed to 88. Okay, so set option and set options are something that you can add, so you can actually certainly use it for validation. Okay, yeah, so that is actually internal set options callback. Now, if you want to add your own public callback, so in this case, the refresh function. If option, yeah, so whenever whenever it reaches the 100, we like to have the complete complete event to be invoked. Okay, so here, basically we are going to provide our own complete event type, and basically when it reaches 100, it will just display this message. Okay. Yeah, so this is what we are going to see. And cleanup is you can just call destroy. Okay. All right, so hopefully that gives you a sense of how the widget can be in fact created by extending existing widget and creating from scratch. Okay. All right, so I am going to actually move on